You may know Jay-Z from many things, being the first hip-hop billionaire, being a GOAT in hip-hop, being, you know, Beyonce's husband, father to Blue Ivy, and for giving us Kanye West. But what you may not know is that he was a major player in the downfall of the pen and pad writing era of rap music. It's not directly his fault, you know, a lot of other things came into play, but he is part of the reason why we don't write anymore. And whether that's a good or bad thing, I'm gonna leave it to you, but it is a thing. So let's talk about it. Jay-Z coming from an era with a lot of large personalities, mostly lyrical rappers, a lot of hits. It was imperative that when you hop behind the mic, you're saying something. And so you would think, you know, being the lyrical, spiritual, mystical wizard that he is, you would think he'd be a major proponent of hopping into the booth with exactly what you want to say prepared and just, you know, really burn that bitch up. But actually, that is not the case. In reality, he did an interview with Sway, I think in the late 90s or the early 2000s, at a point where he's climbing higher and higher in everybody's list. You know, he's been a mainstay in the game for a very long time. And he says this way, I don't write raps. I walk in there and I feel it. Shockwaves ring out in every hood everywhere. Hold up, Jay-Z don't write. I'm definitely not gonna write. Notebook sales are down 45%. Office Depot and Staples going out of business in the hood. No more raps are being written. From now on, we're going in and we're freestyling it. Because if Jay can do it, why can't I? Well, because you're not Jay-Z. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, if it was just Jay, that'd be just fine, right? Maybe it's an anomaly, maybe it's one person with a gift. But you know who else is scorching hot this time? Here's this Jay-Z interview and decides, yeah, I'm not writing ever again either. Lil Wayne.
Did that inspire you? Cause
when I heard it, the moment I heard it, I stopped. You can ask him, boy.
Now we have two GOAT candidates, two major talents in this era, saying, yeah, you don't need to write your raps. I go in there and I freestyle and I make great songs like the ones that you hear on my tapes. With that, all the young, impressionable minds that will become our superstars today have thrown away their notebooks. They're hopping in the studio with nothing but their thoughts. But let's take it back a little bit. To understand why this is kind of a shift, let's talk about why we were writing raps in the first place. Back in the G, rappers had to record on tape, much like everybody else. So you kind of had to have it down. Kind of had to know exactly what you were saying, how you were saying it, who else is coming in at certain points, because you don't want to waste that tape, and you definitely don't want to leave any room for error in going back and trying to re-record things. It was an insane process, but you know, it made sense because that's what we had. Really minimal room for error. Studio sessions is shorter. You came in, you knew your rap, and you rapped it right the first time.
We don't have time or the luxury to spend all of this time doing one song. We don't have it.
And this era of rappers was like the 1980s into the 1990s, right? So those are the people that our rappers grew up on. But then we get more and more technologically advanced, and we enter an age where we don't have to do those types of things anymore. And so with that, it evolves. There's no more worry about messing up the tape. You don't have to keep the knobs in the exact same position they always are in when you're recording. You know, it doesn't take as long anymore. The engineer is less stressed. So now sessions are more relaxed. We can experiment with certain things. And in hip-hop, there's a certain group of people that are blessed with the ability to do what we call freestyle. And from that, I believe, is where we start the era of punching in. Not as a tool to correct errors, but as a tool to create entire songs. Okay, so what? Rappers now have more time to experiment in the studio. That seems like a great thing. And for those that grew up in the writing era, that actually is a great thing. Our 90s and 2000s legends like Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, Biggie, Jadakiss, Styles P, etc. now not only have the experience of years of writing raps, but now are free to experiment and play around with all that knowledge in a professional setting. It's not as high stakes as it used to be. Not that they were all recording on tape in the first place. But as that recording culture shifts, now we enter a new era. So we've gone from the far extremes of coming fully prepared to the studio because, you know, it's on tape. You only have a certain amount of time and you need to get this song done. But the flip side nowadays, rappers don't pull up to the studio with not a goddamn thing. They pulling up with just the Fronto and the weed. Hopefully somebody has the lighter, somebody has the beats, somebody has everything else. The studio session is 12 hours long, so they can spend that amount of time, you know, picking through beats, and hopefully they can use a little bit of that time to record maybe 3 or 4 songs, and that's it. Of course, that's not everybody, but That is a lot of people. And if you've been an engineer like I have, you definitely know the feeling. And further than that, if you sat through multiple sessions of an artist recreating the same song he's made 1,000 times, you start to realize that maybe writing a song out is actually gonna benefit them. Of course, in their time, there's still a lot of people writing. And to this day, there's still a lot of people that write. But the fact that it was Lil Wayne and it was Jay-Z, two GOAT figures, two super influential rappers that came together on this I don't write in the studio type of situation, it's definitely influenced the culture in a large way. And I guess I'll let you decide if it's positive or negative. But the major way that I think goes both ways in this is the rise and the popularization of freestyling in mainstream media. Of course, in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, there's always been people that had that lyrical ability to just spit something from the top of the dome. But that was like a fringe skill. Only certain people had it or utilized it, and it wasn't too useful as a mainstream rapper. And even further than that, a lot of people that were freestyling, quote unquote, were not and are not to this day freestyling off the top of the dome. It's just kicking a written, a song that they've created beforehand that they know off the top of the dome that they could just recite. And even further than that, today in 2024, we're lip syncing our freestyles. We're not even rapping the songs anymore. We're just pulling up with the 2-track, give it to the DJ, and just, you know, stand in front of the mic and look pretty. But we're gonna talk about that whole concept a little bit later. Let's get back on topic. Now it looks like Jay-Z and Lil Wayne have this skill, so this is something that I need to be able to do in order to get on as a rapper. And in theory, that sounds like a great way to turn people into more skilled rappers. If more people knew how to freestyle, there'd be more technical skill. It'd be easier to put together a string of words that, you know, form a cohesive and solid song. But that's not how it works in practice. With any skill or with anything that people do, there's always going to be those that choose the easiest route. And so, you know, if I really want to be a rapper and I want to learn how to freestyle, or I see that my greats are freestyling, but I don't have the technical ability to freestyle a whole song like Lil Wayne, I'm going to do it in the smallest pieces I possibly can. And that's where we get the punching in.
Come on. You get less stank. Punch in. Made me understand my new. Anything inside my new.
Hey, the sweat, these hands down. My jelly peace. Yeah.
What? Hold on. Don't trip. Move up. Hey,
And this is not to say that punching requires no skill. That's not the case. It's that a lot of people with no skill are punching in. And I think they should be writing instead. But that's also just me. Who am I, right? But here's why I say that. It's getting harder and harder to find somebody that sounds different, good songwriting, cohesive albums in this newest generation of music. The crop is getting thinner and thinner. And there's a lot of reasons for it. It definitely isn't just because of punching in. But there's less and less skill involved in the creation of music nowadays. And we can and have attributed that to multiple things, like, you know, the TikTokification of music, you know, only making music to be put in Spotify playlists, but also not really putting any thought into the lyrics that you're actually saying. You're just stringing a bunch of good rhymes together. You know me though, if I talk about the negative, I have to talk about the positive. There's many a rapper nowadays with the ability to do just that. It's just, there's so many goddamn rappers. Some people maybe should stop. But without this shift, we wouldn't have got a Future, a V's, a Juice WRLD who hops in the booth and freestyles the entire song, and then we'll go back, you know what, no, let me redo that whole song. That's the kind of talent that it makes sense to hop in with no pen and pad. He's crafted that skill, but a lot of people could benefit from taking that pen and pad into the lab with you and actually creating something that you would want to last a long time. But that's just the opinion of a soon-to-be old head. I guess the question that I'm posing to you is, are our current rappers really good enough to utilize punching in as the primary form of song creation? Are they sane enough, being new enough, and actually meaning something? Or do you not even care about that in the first place? Cause there's enough data on both sides to support either. And I can't lie, there's a lot of great songs that wouldn't have been made without this style. Me personally, for the young ones, I want to encourage y'all to get back to writing, at least when it's album time. Cause as an album listener, I haven't heard one from one of the young niggas in a long time that's really moved me. But for all them singles, yeah, keep punching in, so a lot of them crank. But in any case, you don't gotta listen to me at all. That's enough of what I think. What do you think?